Welcome to Stanley Park, Vancouver's first, largest and most beloved urban park. Surrounded by waters of Burrard Inlet and English Bay, Stanley Park covers 405 hectares or 1,000 acres. For thousands of years, First Nations people have benefited from this peninsula's rich natural resources. The Coast Salish used this area to hunt, fish, and gather food for centuries. The 1790s saw the arrival of Spanish explorers as well as Captain George Vancouver, who led a British expedition along British Columbia's coast, Alaska, and elsewhere. Vancouver was incorporated as a city in 1886, the same year that the first transcontinental train arrived on Canada's west coast. With rapid population growth, a group of visionary residents saw the need to establish an urban park in downtown Vancouver. Officially opened on September 27, 1888, the park was named after Lord Stanley, who had recently sworn in as Canada's 6th Governor-General. In 1889, Lord Stanley became the first Governor-General to visit Vancouver. The Stanley Monument, unveiled on May 19, 1960, depicting Lord Stanley dedicating the park to the use and enjoyment of peoples of all colors and creeds and customs for all time. A popular landmark in Stanley Park is the First Nations art area near Brockton Point, home to 9 totem poles carved by gifted and experienced Indigenous artists. This site is one of the most visited and photographed places in the park, and as a matter of fact, in all of Vancouver as well. Totem poles are unique to the northwest coast of British Columbia and lower Alaska. Carved from western red cedar, totem poles tell of real or mythical events. Each carving has a meaning. Specifically, the eagle represents the kingdom of the air, the whale signifies the lordship of the sea, the wolf refers to the genius of the land, and the frog stands for the transitional link between land and sea. Look at the impressive Rose Cole Yelton Memorial Pole of the Squamish Nation. Raised in 2009, this pole was created to honor Rose Cole Yelton, her family, and all those who lived in Stanley Park. The pole is erected in front of the house site where the Cole family lived until 1935. Until the time of her passing in 2002, Rose was the last surviving resident of the Brockton community. Stanley Park is world famous for its breathtaking scenery. Making up the northwestern half of Vancouver's downtown peninsula, Stanley Park offers panoramic views of the mountains and sea. Over 60% of Stanley Park is coastal temperate rainforest, which provides valuable habitat for wildlife. On its centennial in 1988, Stanley Park was designated a National Historic Site of Canada by the federal government. In 2013, the park was named the best park in the world, surpassing Central Park in New York City. By the way, Stanley Park is nearly 20% larger than Central Park. Most of the man-made structures present in Stanley Park were built between 1911 and 1937 under the influence of the park's first superintendent, Rawlings. With tremendous foresight, in 1917, W.S. Rawlings envisioned a grand seawall as a key touristic attraction, which would also protect the shoreline from wave erosion. It turned out to be a mammoth task that took 62 years to complete. Thousands of workers helped build the 8.8-kilometer wall, with master stonemason James Cunningham supervising much of the construction. Today, Stanley Park offers many recreational opportunities, including a seaside path like no other. As it meanders around the park, the seawall offers stunning ocean and mountain views to walkers, joggers, cyclists, and skaters. There is a long list of sites of attraction. Lost Lagoon is a nesting ground to many bird species, whereas Beaver Lake is a restful place nestled among the trees. For nature lovers, there are more than 27 kilometers of forest trails inside the park. As you wander the forest mixture of new and older growth, lakes and wetlands, look for an array of birds and mammals benefiting from the park's natural mosaic and different habitats. The Vancouver Aquarium is the largest of its kind in Canada, housing a rich collection of marine life, including sea lions, harbor seals, sea otters, and so forth. Take a minute to snap a picture of the girl in wetsuit. She represents Vancouver's dependence on the sea. The 9 o'clock gun was fired for the first time in 1898, ordinarily fired daily at 9 p.m. This tradition has continued for more than 100 years. Stanley Park is truly Vancouver's green treasure, where mild weather and varied terrain have created a spectacular forest setting that benefits wildlife and people. The park offers a wealth of nature experiences and endless, breathtaking views from shore to forest. Along the seashore, you'll find a rich display of marine life such as seabirds and sea stars. Windstorms are common in coastal forests. The Stanley Park has experienced 2 windstorm events that are still vivid memories. In 1962, Hurricane Frida uprooted about 3,000 trees in the park. From December 2006 to January 2007, 3 major windstorms struck the park. They toppled over 10,000 mature trees, or more than 10% of the forest, and damaged the Prospect Point escarpment and the seawall below. The public response was an outpouring of financial and in-kind support from citizens, companies, and governments towards a coordinated process of recovery through a variety of restoration efforts, including native tree planting, seawall and trail repairs, etc. Stanley Park is a great example of demonstrating the relationship between its natural environmental and its cultural elements developed over time. Widely hailed as Vancouver's green gem, Stanley Park epitomizes the largest urban park in Canada. Each year, as many as 18 million visitors come to Stanley Park. That means 50,000 people visit the park every day. Come to Stanley Park to get closer to nature, reflect on First Nations cultural heritage, take a stroll along the scenic seawall, or take a leisurely horse-drawn ride. There are numerous spots to admire the picturesque North Shore Mountains as well as the giant Lionsgate Bridge. Take a break along the seawall to watch float planes flying over the busy port of Vancouver, where dozens of elevator terminals and container cranes handle shipment of a large quantity of goods ranging from Canadian grain such as wheat, barley, and canola, high-valued minerals and forest products, and a variety of consumer goods. Stanley Park offers fantastic vistas of the city's landmark, Sails of Canada Place. Vancouver is a port of call for several major international cruise liners. Each year, thousands of passengers set sail from Vancouver's cruise ship terminal, voyaging north along Canada's west coast, through the Inside Passage to Alaska, and across the Pacific to many other storied ports of call. Thank you for watching and listening. Please subscribe to this channel, Words of Woods.